Hey, you guys, welcome to the Cerebral Palsy and Fitness Podcast. It has been about a month or so since we've been on, and welcome to the first episode of the year. Kimberly Nielsen, she's actually the founder of Shyft, which helps promote a healthy lifestyle through different massaging techniques such as cupping, traditional massage therapy, ice baths, and any other things you might need that might help you heal your body and make you feel better. Welcome, Kimberly.
Thank you. This is fun.
I know it is, right? We were just talking about all the different techniques and all the all the good things you could do to help your body and how much it means to you to get yourself out there, as far as a company. So speaking about Shift, how did you come about starting the business?
So we're now, as of like June, we're officially Shyft Massage and Float Club. So we have the massage and then the ice bathing and the sensory deprivation. So we have all of that now. Originally, for the first 10 years, I've just been in massage therapy. And that kind of came about. That was my whole life falling apart, crisis moment. Is, for the first half of my adult career, I have been, building this great career in corporate America, working in commercial construction. And that's just the life I knew for the first half of my life. But I find that I'm part of a generation that has sold themselves on that lie of that we work hard and long hours to provide a good life for your family, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the lie that we've grown up with. But when your family, and in my case, it started with my oldest and my 16-year-old. He moved out and disowned us at 16, and I got hit with this,
Oh,
with
wow.
the Mack truck. So why, if I'm not really doing this for my family because my family hates me, right? Right? Then why am I working so hard? Why am I
Right.
slaving away for somebody else's business? So that was just
So
a crisis moment for me, and I kind of everything came crashing down as to what am I doing?
what made you persevere and overcome that difficult time in your life?
It's really interesting because I guess never thought about it with that statement in mind, but there was a distinct moment when all that was going on where if I didn't have other kids at home, I I remember saying this. If I didn't have other kids at home, I would have checked myself in somewhere because I felt like I was just beyond myself, right? Like I
Right.
would have checked myself in somewhere. But it was having other kids at home, having family at home that needed me to
Right.
stay focused that kept me moving. I was a single parent for the first half of my life. So my oldest, who's the one that disowned me the first one that disowned me, um, he was, he was the one I raised from the beginning. And so I've got two older boys that that are mine as a single parent. And then as we've gotten older, I'm now married and we have a third son. But so yeah, it was just really hard. It was really hard to be confronted with that. What am I doing? Because you just tell yourself that you're working for somebody else, and it's just kind of rocked my world and shifted my reality. But having family at home, having other kids at home, is what um, kept me moving forward. And even that was kind of, there was moments. If my old boss was still alive, he would have told you I was a complete wreck. I'd make it to work, but I'd be a basket case while I was there.
Right. It's
So
it's like you
yeah.
said, having that family, that strong support system really can help you um get through anything in your life. Like
Knowing that somebody else is relying on you to hold it together.
knowing that somebody else believes in you and loves you and has faith in you, you know,
Yeah.
that helps out a lot. Because like you
Yeah, I
said,
was
even if
fortunate enough that my husband um, and I worked together at the time. And so, I'd be a complete wreck, and then we would go to lunch, and he'd, kind of talk me off the ledge, and we go back for the second half of the day. So
Right.
yeah.
That's incredible, and that's fantastic, and I'm happy for you to hear that you had a great support system to really guide you through that moment in your life. Um, and then how did Shift first start for you? Was it a small like massaging studio, or did you start it from your home?
Yeah. So I kind of left. It kind of just like I kind of started seeing clients on the side while I was still working full time, just privately. And I always had my own studio. I never worked for somebody else. I never worked from home. I always had a studio. Um, but when I finally cut ties with the 9 to 5 job, and just kind of jumped in with both feet, it was kind of like, I used to go and see massage therapists, right? And while I was on the table, when I was talking to them, I'm always asking questions. That's just the way my brain works, right? Like, why are you doing this? What's happening? And just always asking questions. And like 3 people in a row, 3 different massage therapists, all asked me the same question. Why are you asking me this? Are you studying to do this? And every time I was like, oh no, I could never.
Right.
I could never be that close. I mean, I'm a very, engineer behind a window kind of person. I could never. But by the 3rd time, it was like this light switch went off. And I was like, you know what? That's the kind of impact that I want to have on somebody else. When they're struggling, getting through their day, just functioning because of all this stress at home or stress or whatever, having somebody that can hold space for me is that what I want to do for somebody else. And that's kind of how it started when I just started my own individual massage practice.
That's awesome. And speaking about your practice, like for the for your I guess I would say for the employees that work there, what are some of the requirements you look for as far as like do you look for somebody that's very like well knowledgeable in what you offer there and like kindness and compassion?
So yes to both of those questions. The first half of it is we have branded ourselves over the last 10 years. We branded ourselves on deep tissue massage, right? So I've always wanted to create a place where you can always find good, consistent deep tissue massage. Because for people that like that kind of work, they know that it's hard to find somebody that's good and consistent. And that if for any reason you find yourself between massage therapists, it's just a nightmare trying to find somebody else that does good work, right?
Right.
So that's always been the branding part of it. So that's number one. When I'm hiring massage therapists, they just have to be good at deep tissue and be able to do it all day long, right? It's not just something we're doing once in a while. It's no, that's
Right.
every one of our clients is deep tissue clients all day long.
And
Go
are
ahead.
most of those clients that you deal with, are they normal everyday working people like ourselves? Or are they a variety of people like people with disabilities, people with different chronic illnesses?
I have to say I haven't had a lot of people with disabilities. Although we have started seeing a few more with like severe autism or
Okay,
on the
interesting.
higher end of the spectrum. So we've seen some of that. Most of my clients are just people. They tend to be men, and they tend to be men or individuals that are just hard on their body, right? They're police officers or they're construction workers, or they're just people that use their body hard and
Mhm.
need to care for it hard, right? Even if they're going to continue to work at that level, then they need somebody that's going to, they need to take care of their body. That
Right,
seems to be
right.
the pattern.
It'd be pretty cool to see you and Daniel team up together and come up with like a plan where you can treat uh different kinds of individuals with different kinds of uh not just physical disabilities and you know and psychological, but just everyday people, come together where you guys are, working together in one place. And then, one person, if they need physical therapy, they can go there. And then if they need a massage, they
Yeah.
can go there. And it's like all in one place.
Yeah. Daniel and I just met recently over the last few months. So we're still kind of building relationship as to how, how we can work best together. I've the other thing that I tend to talk about is when people ask me who, like what's an ideal client is when you start bringing in the ice bathing and the sensory deprivation piece, I tend to think that like the type A personality, right? The always on, super busy, hyper focused, working adult is a great fit for the business, because with sensory deprivation, you're like, you're scheduling your time, right? So somebody who's always on has a hard time prioritizing their own time, right? Everybody else, the businesses that they're in, everybody else is a priority. So they struggle, because I'm one of them. I'm guilty of it, right? You struggle making yourself a priority. So putting yourself on somebody else's schedule is a way of doing that. And with sensory deprivation, you're shutting off the noise, right? You're shutting off your phones. You're shutting off the constant chatter and the instant, the instant information. You're shutting all that off for like an hour. So it's great for people that are really high strung like that. And then the ice bathing piece of it is really great for the same group of people, because or people with high anxiety or ADHD, because it trains you to focus. There's so much of a mental piece with ice bathing. It's not just the physical. There's so much of a mental piece. And a lot of that has to do with training the mind to focus and learning how to deregulate the system in a stressful environment.
Speaking about sensory deprivation, is that kind of like yoga, except you're like in a room that's like super quiet with like candles on and you have like no music on? Is this peaceful and zenful?
So, okay. So if you don't know what it is, the two things that people remember, depending on your generation, is for the younger generation right now, they've seen it in Stranger Things, where Eleven was, puts herself in the tub with blocks out her eyes, and that's how she goes into the alternate dimension, right? So people from that generation, that's what they know it as, right? People from my generation, a little bit older, I was introduced to it through The Big Bang Theory. In The Big Bang Theory, you've got the two scientists, Sheldon and Amy, that go to the sensory deprivation tank and have completely opposite experiences. So it's like an egg. It looks like a spaceship. It looks like an egg, but it's got like 1,100, or it's got like 1,000 pounds of salt in it. So even if you fall asleep, you're going to stay floating. So it's warm. You lose track of the body. You lose track of your time. You lose track of everything, but you're shutting off all your senses. You're shutting off sound, shutting off lights, and you're in this room and inside this pod. And it's amazing.
Yes. So I have a friend of mine here who just said that the saltwater tanks have to be amazing. So I guess it really helps with your muscles and relaxation, right?
Yeah. So on a physical standpoint, again, it's 1,000 pounds of salt, Epsom salts. So if a salt bath works great after, with sore muscles, this kind of takes that to a whole other level, because it's 1,000 pounds of salt. So yes, it's extremely relaxing, and for chronically tight muscles, it's amazing.
Yeah, I really appreciate the group chat here tonight. They're having some really wonderful comments, and everybody's so supportive.
That's awesome. Okay.
Yeah, it's and then a floating club. What do you mean by a floating club? What is that?
So we call it a massage and float club, because we have both options. The club piece of it just comes with the membership. Like, you don't have to. It doesn't have to be a membership. You don't have to be a member to just do a drop-in session. But you get the better pricing. You get the more consistency if you are a member. And the float club piece of it it just kind of wraps together all the water components, the ice bathing and the sensory deprivation. So we have different kinds of memberships based on what you're interested in. So you can break it up in any way, but we have the ice bathing, we have the sensory deprivation tank, and then we have the massage pieces.
I gotta tell you, those ice baths, I'm kind of scared. I'm afraid to try it because the water's like freezing cold, and I'm afraid that my body is gonna lock out. But I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna go for it and just jump right in.
So a lot of people say that, we live in Florida for a reason, right? Because most of us hate the cold. And so, yeah, you hear that often. But what I did is when I first started ice bathing, it was like I was tired of being grumpy every time it was 50 degrees outside. Right? I'm like, I'm tired of this. I don't want to be owned by, being miserable in the wintertime. And so I started tackling it as, as trying to better myself in that way, trying to be, more resilient that way. And but to conquer, to counteract your fears, and a lot of people's fears, is we do have 2 tanks. We say ice bath, but there's not ice. They're just cold baths, right? So we have one tank at 60 degrees and one tank at 45. So you get all the physical benefits at 60 degrees. Yeah, 60 degrees or less, 2 minutes or more. So that's kind of your entry point. And 60 degrees is just a little bit colder than the springs, right? So it's approachable. And you get all the physical benefits at just 60 degrees. 45 is just there for, the people that, go all in and just want to push themselves a little bit more. It's more mental at that point, because the physical benefits you get at 60.
So is there a restriction, like an age limit or a weight limit for you to try the ice baths?
The only thing with age, not really. The only thing with age is, it's anybody probably younger than 16 needs to have a parent. That's any kind of service that you do, right? But the restrictions that I can think of off the top of my head will be our ice baths basically look like a bathtub, right? So as far as size is concerned, I've got some really tall gentlemen that come in, and they have to like kind of cross their legs in order to get up to their shoulders, or some of them don't even get up to your shoulders. So it's kind of how you fit into a bathtub is how you would fit into our ice baths, if that makes
Now,
sense.
seeing that you have multiple ways of recovery, and you've seen so many patients walk in, what is the best technique that you feel provides like the most relief? Is there a difference in each one?
Yeah, it's so individual. It's really based on what the individual needs, right? Because I mean, it's just like any other sort of treatment. What's going to work for one is not going to work for another. It really depends on what you need, what your problems are, what you're trying to accomplish will, dictate which service works best for you.
So in other words, I could go like, "Hey, I want to try them all," and then I feel like $1,000,000, right?
No. I mean, we have ways that you can do that. But a lot of times you do, like, there's certain things that you can do on the same day. I always tell people, if they're doing multiple things in one day, that you want to finish with the ice bath if you're going to do them all, right? Because the ice bath, you're waking up and you're on a high and you're just feeling fantastic, and you really don't want to lose that. And so I always say, if you're going to do multiple things, that you want to finish with an ice bath. You want to finish on a high.
What is your ultimate goal with Shyft in the future? What do you want to take your business?
So I think right now, I think my goal, like my immediate short-term goal, is like, the reason why I'm on this podcast is to become known, for people to know that Shyft exists. There's not a whole lot of other people that do what we do in the metro, in this Central Florida area. Right. So first and foremost, that's what I'm on a mission to do this year. On a little bit larger scale, I think, from a business standpoint, I'd like to see us grow to having like at least a minimum of 3 different locations in the area, so we can target different parts of the community. And then from there, franchise, sell, whatever doors. I hate foreseeing that far out, because anything can happen between now and then,
Right. Anything can happen. And from what you tell me, you've done a tremendous job despite a lot of the obstacles you faced early on in life. And I see a bright future ahead of you.
Yeah, I don't know how to sit still. I don't know how to stay stagnant, and then so I'm a very forward-thinking person. When no matter what situation I find myself in, whatever life difficulties, I'm just like everybody else. I get stuck in the depression. I get stuck in the mire of, why is this happening? But I always I'm always also trying to say, that's not acceptable, right? I'm always trying to pull myself out of it and grow in some way. What can I learn from this experience so I don't have to do it again? Yeah, I remember as a kid. So I grew up in a very Christian household, and so as a young adult, and being a single parent, there's moments where I'm like freaking Job. What the heck is the point? It's like you're being bombarded with trial after trial after. I'm like, why is this happening, right?
Well, I mean,
but you don't always understand what the why is. All you can do is what can I learn from this, right? How can I grow from this? How can I become a better person? How can I approach the world from a higher standpoint? And that's just kind of the way that I live my life.
Hey, that is fantastic here. I'm just gonna share some of the comments here. Nonsense and Deep Thoughts podcast over here says, Kimberly, they're wishing you the best here.
That's awesome. Deep Thoughts podcast. I have to listen to that one. I'm always saying I want deep conversation. I love having deep, solid conversations. So that's great.
Hey, I will definitely have to connect you with my buddy Corey over there, and get y'all set up and hopefully get on
that'd
their
be
podcast
awesome.
as well.
That'd be great.
Yeah, for sure. And so for those that are trying to inquire about Shyft, where can we find you?
So the website is Shyft, SHYFT Florida, all spelled out, Shyft-Florida.com. That's probably the easiest way to say, but we're also on Facebook. We're on Instagram. And then we're just outside. If you're in the Central Florida area, we're just outside of Sanford. So we're in Orange City. So straight up 1792, right outside of Sanford.
So to kind of end or wrap up our podcast, the first question from me to you is, how do you describe yourself? When people, or if someone like myself who if I to not know you, how would you describe yourself? Who is Kimberly?
As an individual or as a business?
As an individual.
As an individual. I'm a deep thinker. I'm definitely a deep thinker. That's where I find my most, I don't know. That's how I work best in the world. That's what brings me joy, is being able to have deep conversations. I don't do the superficial really well. And so I don't always, jive with people because of that. It's like, okay, we got to dive in deep, and we got to dive in deep quick if we're going to make a connection. Yeah.
Hey, that's fantastic. It's really rare that nowadays that a lot of people, really think about things. They tend to jump, to conclusion, or jump into doing things without really realizing what kind of consequences or what good things could happen.
Or what the other person's perspective is. That's what I find that I do a lot of, that not everybody does, and that I like to try to enlighten other people is that other person that you're communicating with doesn't have your same life experiences, right? They're not seeing the world, seeing the situation from your vantage point. And so you can't hate them for it. You just kind of got to give them space to have their own interpretations of what's happening.
So they asked, do you like aliens, paranormal stuff, and conspiracies?
Absolutely. Favorite. I'm all in it. Oh. I'm all in
it. Looks like you're all going to have a conversation about it.
I said that in one of my networking groups recently. I stood up and I said, okay, who do you know that believes in ancient aliens and talks about astral travel and all the weird stuff? Who do you know? Those are the people I want an introduction to. Those are my people.
Right. And it's Corey. He responded there. Thanks, Corey.
That's
really
awesome.
Appreciate you with the comment, and it's really awesome that you're partaking in this, and I hope to get you guys connected at some point so you guys can have
Yep.
your own conversation, and that's why I love doing this. Why I love podcasting is you get to meet different people, you get to connect with them, and there's always something new you learn.
Yeah, that's what I love about your podcast is the variety of different people that you interview. It's so awesome. It's just interesting.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing. Eventually, what I see you doing too is eventually you'll branch out into doing something like this, where you interview people in your niche. But not only that, you get to build that network, and eventually that network will lead to something special.
Well, I do have a podcast, but it's still really small, and I'm still learning how to do it. But it's a friend of mine, and we're always talking about these, deep thought, aha moments. And it's Shyft Uprising is our podcast, but it's still, kind of in its infancy.
Awesome. Hey, when I first started this podcast, it was using a Android phone. Didn't have an idea about audio or video. Everything was complete garbage. But hey, here we are today on
That's
StreamYard doing it
right.
live 5 years later.
But you got to start somewhere, right?
Right, right. And what can you share your website with us so that way they can also look at your website?
Yes, it's Shyft, SHYFT hyphen Florida, all spelled out, shyft-florida.com.
All right, that's fantastic. And Kimberly, I definitely enjoyed your presence here today. It's been a pleasure and a privilege, and it's been a lot of fun. And I hope a lot of people listen to this podcast, and if those that really need help physically and are feeling a sense of hopelessness because they might be thinking, how am I going to get rid of this pain, or how am I going to get through this obstacle of everyday life without pain? Well, there's an answer for it.
Right. There are it's so I know times an uphill battle, but there are things that you can do that can kind of take the edge off and make it a little more tolerable.
I mean, it's so funny because with your life experiences that you've dealt with, you've used that adversity to now help people feel better.
Right.
You were down and you were struggling, and you're like, I may be down, I may be struggling, but I have a gift, I have knowledge that I can use to help people feel better.
Right. And sometimes that's all people need is somebody to relate to, is to
Mhm.
know that they're not the only one, right? It's that there are other people that have either are still going through those situations or have been through them, and but they are not by any means in it alone.
Oh, all right. Well, thank you so much for your time, and I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. This episode will be up on YouTube. It'll be up on Spotify. It'll also be up on here on Facebook right after the show goes off air. Um, and if you guys are interested, definitely subscribe to the channel on YouTube, David Cerebral Palsy and Fitness channel. And until next time, you guys, thank you so much, Kimberly.
Thank you. It was fun.
Well, I wish you the best and success in the future and beyond.
Thank you.